Hello, this is the BenBinFro Thought for the Day for Friday the 2nd of December, and the reading is Isaiah chapter 44 verses 9 to 21, and I'm reading from the NIV. All who make idols are nothing, and the things they treasure are worthless. Those who would speak up for them are blind, they are ignorant to their own shame. Who shapes a god and casts an idol which can profit nothing? People who do that will be put to shame. Such craftsmen are only human beings. Let them all come together and take their stand. They will be brought down to terror and shame. The blacksmith takes a tool and works with it in the coals. He shapes an idol with hammers. He forges it with the might of his arm. He gets hungry and loses his strength. He drinks no water and grows faint. The carpenter measures with a line and makes an outline with a marker. He roughs it out with chisels and marks it with compasses. He shapes it in human form in all its glory, that it may dwell in a shrine. He cuts down cedars, or perhaps takes a cypress or oak. He lets it grow among the trees of the forest, or planted a pine, and the rain made it grow. It is used as fuel for burning. Some of it he takes and warms himself. He kindles a fire and bakes bread. But he also fashions a god and worships it. He makes an idol and bows down to it. Half of the wood he burns in the fire. Over it he prepares his meal. He roasts his meat and eats his fill. He also warms himself and says, I'm warm, I see the fire. From the rest he makes a god, his idol. He bows down to it and worships. He prays to it and says, Save me, you are my God. They know nothing. They understand nothing. Their eyes are plastered over so that they cannot see, and their minds closed so that they cannot understand. No one stops to think. No one has the knowledge or understanding to say, half of it I used for fuel. I even baked bread over its coals. I roasted meat and I ate. Shall I make a detestable thing from what is left? Shall I bow down to a block of wood? Such a person feeds on ashes. A deluded heart misleads him. He cannot save himself or say, Is not this thing in my right hand a lie? Remember these things, Jacob, for you, Israel, are my servant. I have made you. You are my servant, Israel. I will not forget you. Well, in this passage, Isaiah is discussing idols and the reason that they are pointless and worthless. They are made of materials such as wood by craftsmen, such as carpenters. Another part of the tree the wood comes from could be made into an everyday object, such as chairs or tables. And I'm paraphrasing the passage a bit here. And the carpenter, when not creating idols, uses the same skills to create such mundane, everyday objects. So, and Isaiah makes his point very well in the passage, there is nothing special about idols. They are the same as ordinary everyday objects, made by ordinary craftsmen. And Christians recognize this, and thus idols are not worshipped, in theory at least. Some religions do have a culture of worshipping idols, though. Hinduism, for instance. There are many and varied idols recognized as gods in the Hindu faith. And the most bizarre one I personally have come across was while in Rajasthan in India a few years ago, in a village where a 1950s British BSA motorbike, of all things, had been idolized and was being worshipped as a god. All very strange to Christian eyes, and I suspect to some other eyes as well. But are we, in fact, any better in the West? As more and more people give up on Christianity and claim to be non-religious, it would appear human nature does need to cling to something to replace the superhuman. And that something appears to require idols. Harari, in his book Sapiens, examines this, and I'm probably rather badly paraphrasing what he suggests. What he refers to as the worship of man takes over, and these are concepts such as humanism and communism, both concepts where Homo sapiens is, apparently, in control, rather than an extraterrestrial being such as God. Are there any idols involved with humanism? Humanists would probably state not, though I would argue there are. In a communist society, for instance, you are expected to idolize the leader, an extreme example being North Korea. And what about the humanists in a country such as the UK? If the argument is to be progressed, there must be idols. How about the NHS, for instance? Or sports heroes? And why get so concerned about statues to the extent that there is a feeling they should be pulled down and replaced with a more appropriate person to idolize? Are they deemed to be idols? Such things relate to ordinary materials being crafted by ordinary craftsmen from materials used to make many other things by the same craftsman. And that is exactly Isaiah's point in the passage. We can examine the use of idols from a different direction. According to the notes in the Life Application Study Bible, a good way of examining if you are, as an individual, you are worshipping anything other than God, is to ask the following questions about yourselves. Number 1, what created me? Number 2, whom do I ultimately trust? Number 3, whom do I look to for the ultimate truth? Number 4, whom do I look to for security and happiness? And number 5, who is in charge of my future? And if the responses to any of the above 5 questions is anything other than God, you must be worshipping an idol. So, in conclusion, I would suggest we cannot dismiss this passage on idols as something that does not happen around us. Instead, I suggest the passage is very relevant here in 21st century Britain. Well, that concludes this thought for the day. Thank you for listening and have a good day.